Who is to blame for your divorce? Whether you're already divorced or going through it right now, I know how all-consuming this question can be. My goal in this video is to release you from that constant tug of war between anger and resentment and self-doubt and regret. If you don't know me yet, my name is Rachael Sloan. I'm a relationship coach. I work with men going through divorce, after divorce, to help them rebuild who they are, get healthy, get happy, and move on with confidence. You cannot move on when you are stuck in this blame game. Most of the time when I talk to a client or a potential client for the first time, I get this story. The common narrative is that somebody has to be. But I want you to think about what happens if someone has to be at fault. That sets you and your ex up as a competition for who the villain is. It's got to be one of you. Right? This is how our brains work. We think, well, if it's not me, it's her. Either she's the asshole or I'm the asshole. And we see this so often. I see this so often coming from women, right? Being really scathingly cruel about their exes and the labels that we use. And I see it in men too. It is a two-way street. I see it in men within themselves, going back and forth between blaming themselves and accusing themselves of horrible things, calling themselves, maybe I'm just a monster. Maybe I am a narcissist. Maybe I have no empathy. Maybe I'm just a bad person. Maybe I'm broken. I hear that a lot. Men are like, wow, if this is my fault, if I could do this, I am broken. There is something wrong with me. They vacillate between that place and the other side, which is she's the asshole. She's the one to blame. It's her fault, right? She didn't give me a chance. She didn't talk about her feelings. She acted crazy. She was fine one day and the next she divorced me. Whatever that story is, she cheated, she lied, she left. As long as you believe that somebody has to be at fault for your divorce, you're going to constantly be stuck in trying to figure out who it was. It's so important because if it was her, whew, you can feel okay about yourself. You can maybe have a future. You can maybe go forward. There's a lot at stake, but there's also a lot of grief because if it was her, well, she wasn't the person I thought she was. This person I loved, this person I shared my life with, she wasn't really that person. She was somebody else. All this time, she was this bad person, right? It's her fault. She's the bad guy. Or I'm the bad guy. And then how do I go forward? How can I have another relationship if there's something wrong with me, if I'm bad, if I'm narcissistic, if I'm evil, if I'm monstrous, if I'm controlling, right? Oh, it's overwhelming. How do I even begin to fix something that profound? There's no winning, right? If she's the bad guy, there's this incredible grief, sense of loss, sense of deception. How do you trust again? How could you be married to this person for all these years and then they turn out to be this horrible bad guy? Like, how do you go forward with that? How do you overcome that? And if you're the bad guy, well, crap, really, really now, how do you go forward? This is a lose-lose situation for you. So I want you to consider, just consider an alternative. What if nobody has to be at fault? What if no one's the bad guy? What if there is no bad guy? I mean, do you see how simplistic it is really to want there to be a bad guy? And the world isn't that black and white. There's not good guys and villains. There's not good and evil, right? Yes, we love Marvel movies. We love fairy tales. We love, the big bad wolf and the innocent Red Riding Hood. We love these stories that simplify, that show us the duality, good and bad, right? It makes life seem a little easy, but it's not realistic. It's not true. Life is more complicated than that. It just doesn't work that way. The truth is, you're not a bad guy and she's not a bad guy. The truth is, you are two human beings with two human brains and two human hearts. And guess what? When you were children, you both learned ways of reaching for affection. You both learned ways of staying safe. You both learned ways of comforting yourself when you were alone in the dark at night and there was nobody around and you were afraid. Those things that you learned, those patterns of thinking, and more importantly, those patterns of feeling, you learned them when you were very, very young, and you've been practicing them your entire life. And they show up in every relationship you have. That's why sometimes you do things and you don't know why. You're like, why did I do that? That made no sense. Why do I feel this so strongly? It's overwhelming. It's almost like I can't choose what I do. I can't choose what I say. It just happens because you're having a strong, automatic, habitual emotional response that you learned as a child and have been practicing unaware your entire life. You've got two people going through life with these emotional habits, these ways that they've learned to connect, to love, to stay safe, to withdraw, to attract affection, right? All of these intricate things about being human. And the fact is, most of us don't really learn the healthiest ways to do those things. What happens is so many of us grow up with an anxious way of reaching for love or afraid of love. We've been hurt, we've been left alone, we've been abandoned, we've been rejected. We learn ways to protect ourselves. We have defense mechanisms, we have coping mechanisms, and at the same time, we crave connection because we are human and we need other people and we need intimate relationships. And so often we're in this push and pull between what is safe and what we need, how we get love and how we protect ourselves. And most of us are not aware of these patterns. We don't know to look for them. We don't even know that there's something that we could change. It just feels like the way we are. And so you have two humans with all of this stuff going on inside, right? And a bunch of thoughts that they've learned to think over and over and that they've practiced about themselves, about relationships. And they're influenced not just by your parents, they're influenced by what we watch on TV, by what we read in the news, by social media, by our friendships. We have all these stories about what relationships are and what men are and what women are, all these thoughts. And then all these automatic feelings that are triggered by things that we don't even really fully recognize, right? They're triggered by an expression, a tone of voice, a turn of phrase. And it's often from something in our childhood. You've got two humans, with all of this stuff going on, and they're trying to make a life together. They're trying to make a future together. Maybe they're trying to make a family together. It's really not that surprising that sometimes it doesn't go well. Right? You've got two people who have learned perhaps very different ways of reaching for and expressing love, of protecting themselves and staying safe, of connecting and withdrawing. You're not divorced because you're a bad person or because you're broken or because you're a narcissist or an asshole. You're not divorced because your wife, your ex, was any of those things either. You're divorced because you are two humans who had all this stuff going on and you didn't know how to find each other through all of the bullshit. That's it. You've got all this emotional habit, all of these cognitive patterns of thinking, all of these beliefs that have essentially been programmed in there that you've been practicing over and over that you're not aware you have much control over, or if you are, you're not sure how to control it. You have all of this stuff going on, not to mention some instinctual things, because at our core, we are human animals and we have all different layers of our brain and our nervous system. We have panic responses, we have fight and flight, we go into survival mode. All of this bullshit is going on. And you've got two people who tried to find each other through all of that, and they weren't able to. They didn't know how. It was too hard because they didn't have the skills, they didn't understand, they couldn't unravel that lifetime of triggers and emotions and thoughts and habits and beliefs and inputs from all over. They didn't know how to find each other through it. That's it. That's all that happened. It's not your fault. It's not her fault. No one is broken. No one is damaged and no one is bad. That's the one I really, really want to knock out of the world. You're not evil. She is not evil. Everything you do makes sense and everything she did makes sense if we look at the whole picture. If we look at everything that's happening in your brain, in your heart, in those automatic emotional responses, in your evolutionary responses, if we understand that full story, everything that happened in your marriage and everything that happened in your divorce makes perfect sense. If you can get that full picture and start to break it down and understand yours and hers, you're going to be like, oh, that's why she got so mad about that. That's why I freaked out and yelled and couldn't talk calmly. That's why I felt jealous and anxious and worried. Oh, and you'll be able to look at yourself and at your ex with compassion and understanding. Doesn't mean you're going to get back together. It means you don't have to hold on to anger or resentment or guilt, shame, and regret. It all makes sense if we look at this whole picture, all this stuff that you're both dealing with. It has nothing to do with who's good and who's bad because that doesn't exist. That is just a fictional concept that we came up with to simplify things. Because frankly, this is complicated, right? All the bullshit is complicated. It's all these thoughts, all these beliefs, all these habits, all this lifetime of learned stuff, all these evolved things. There's a lot going on. It's much simpler to just be like, no, I'm good, she's bad, or she's good, I'm bad, right? That's so much simpler, it's so much easier, but it creates so much more inner turmoil. It's not helping you. So we've got to let go of what's easy and start looking more for what's true. And what's true is there's a lot of complication, and no one's good and no one's bad. That truly doesn't exist. That is a made up human construct. It is not real. Look out in the world, look at nature, look at a forest or look at the park. You will see plants killing each other. You'll see vines strangling trees. You will see other plants growing up through other plants. Look at animals. Look at the way they relate. There is no inherent morality in nature. These are human constructs. We are the ones who have said, this is good, this is bad. We've invented this. It is not real. It is a way of simplifying. It's a way of understanding. It's a way of navigating a difficult world and making it easier. But when it comes to your marriage, when it comes to your divorce, it is not serving you to simplify. Because when you simplify, you get stuck. Either she's bad or I'm bad. And if that's the case, you can't win. If she's bad, you've been deceived. This person that you loved isn't really that person. There's so many consequences. How are you ever going to trust again? And how are you going to grieve this immense loss? That's a horrible place to be. That is dirty pain. And if you're to blame, if you're evil, oh my gosh, that's even worse. How do you get out of that hole? How do you fix something that's inherently broken in you? What if you are just evil? What do you do about that? There is no way out. You've got to let go of the good and the bad. You've got to start to recognize that that's just a made up idea, right? That's a fairy tale that we tell to kids because it sounds nice and it makes the world seem easy, and it gives us things to aspire to. It's like, yes, try to be good. Don't be evil. It makes our society work more easily if we're all striving to be good. Yeah, there's a point to good and evil, but it's still made up. It's still not real. And it is still keeping you stuck in this divorce or after this divorce if you're seeking to blame yourself or your spouse for the end. So my challenge to you is to ask yourself, what if? What if no one's to blame? What if we are just two messy, normal, healthy humans with all this lifetime of stuff and we weren't able to find each other through that? What if that's the whole story? What if that's all that happened? No good, no evil, just humans with messy stuff. And if we wanted to do the work and go in and really understand it, we would be able to see that it all makes sense. We would be able to see both of them with compassion and understanding in the context of their very individual, very unique way of experiencing the world, way of reaching for love, way of protecting themselves, way of navigating being human, which frankly is not easy because we are dealing with all this stuff, right? That's it. That's all that happened. You've got two people who can't find each other. That is the end of a marriage. That is a divorce. That's it. No one's good. No one's bad. No one's right. No one's wrong. Humans aren't evil. We've got to let go of this idea, you guys. It is seeping into so many aspects of our society and it's not helping anybody. You don't want to live in anger and resentment, and you do not want to live in self-doubt, shame, and regret. You want to live in hope. You want to live in possibility. And you want to be able to go forward and know that an intimate, vulnerable connection with another human is possible and safe. Because ultimately, that's what we need as humans. That's what we want. And if you hold on to this blame game, you are going to really struggle to have any faith in that possibility for yourself in the future. So this isn't about forgiving your spouse or forgiving yourself. This is just about seeing that there's nothing to forgive. There's no one to blame, just two people with all this messy human stuff going on. That's it. That is the 30,000 foot view. That's the big picture. Sometimes to believe this stuff, you've got to get really specific, right? You're like, okay, that sounds good. I'd like to think that's true, but I don't, right? Because you have a habit also. You have a story about relationships. You have stories about good and bad, and they're really deeply ingrained. So sometimes to really release this blame game, we've got to go in and look at the specifics of your story. We have to make sense of it. We have to prove to your brain that you're not the bad guy, that your spouse isn't the bad guy. We've got to show them evidence, because your brain has a lot of evidence, I would imagine, for why you are and why your spouse is. It's probably got evidence for both scenarios. And it's torn because neither one's a good option, right? So sometimes she's the bad guy, sometimes you're the bad guy. Neither option really feels good, so you go back and forth. There's evidence for both. Sometimes to show your brain that no one's at fault, that it's just these two messy human lives, we've got to go in and look at those messy human lives and make sense of it and understand why you did the things you did, why she did the things she did, why you ended up where you are. If that's where you're at, if it feels like you need to do that work, reach out, book a strategy session with me. That's the work that I do with my clients. We make sense of these things, because once it makes sense, once you're just two messy humans, you can start to look at yourself and your partner with compassion. You can start to release shame, guilt, anger, resentment. And the beautiful thing is you can start to release some of these old habits, some of these automatic emotions, some of these old beliefs. You can start to reach for love in new ways. You can find the safety where you don't have to protect yourself all of the time. And what happens is it becomes possible to have a new kind of relationship, a deeper connection, a safer connection, a more vulnerable connection. You can be grounded and centered emotionally and have a healthier, happier way of connecting to other people, which honestly is what we all want. So this isn't just about releasing blame. This isn't just about understanding why you got divorced. This is also about finding the way forward, finding a way to connect in more powerful, more secure, more meaningful ways, and not repeating all the things that happened in the past. It's about taking all that messy humanness and shaping it, making it more of the kind of centered, grounded, happy, healthy, connected, loving human, the human that can give and receive love easily and is emotionally resilient, can tolerate the whole range of human emotions that are going to come up, because human life is full of emotions. That's what this is really about. But it starts with making sense of what happened, of why you are the way you are, why she is the way she is, and how you want to shape that going forward. If these videos speak to you, this is helpful, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, help me reach more people. I think we all need to start thinking about making a shift from the good and evil and start seeing each other as human beings, human brains, human hearts, human histories. I think that's how we can all begin to find each other again. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you guys on Tuesday.